Rome, 58 AD, and a naive young slave, Lucius, arrived from the sticks into the heart of the capital of the greatest empire in history. He was a fresh-faced green lad who'd seen little of the world. If we were to compare Rome to London, then Lucius had spent his whole life somewhere like Norfolk. Pretty, safe, uneventful, no pret-a-manger, the opposite of Rome. Lucius was joining the household of eminent actor and playwright Octavius. Think Olivier, Branagh, Blessed. It was a fine home, full of laughter, poetry, theatre, and most importantly, a servant girl called Eleni. Eleni was smart, cultured, and almost as learned as her master, Octavius. Lucius was besotted and spent every spare moment in her company, following her around like a lost puppy, grinning like an idiot, pretending he knew what she was talking about. Octavius's plays were famous throughout the empire, but his most recent production had not gone well. He'd put on a comedy for his biggest fan and friend, the despotic Emperor Nero. But poor Octavius had overestimated how chummy he and the Emperor actually were. Writing a character into a play called Emperor Miro, played by a look-alike for the real Emperor, but 5 stone heavier, was not a smart idea. As Eleni had explained, the play died in its arse. Because of the fat Emperor? Partly, but mostly because of the jokes about Nero's old chap. His grandfather? No, his knob. It was full of gags about the size of the Emperor's cock. Lucius was embarrassed, but a little excited by Eleni's blue language. Oh, right. Exactly. I don't know what Octavius was thinking, but we haven't performed so much as a poem since by order of the Emperor. Nero was a mad, bad man to make your enemy. He'd butchered thousands of men, women and beasts over much less than a play. He'd killed his own mum, for God's sake. He'd surely crushed this impertinent actor like a scarab beetle under his sandal. Nero, however, as potty as he was, truly loved the theatre. He'd contained his rage and kept silent. But for how long? As happy as House Octavius was, there were dark clouds forming. If Eleni proved that you get a better class of slave in the city, then Marcus, Octavius's other slave, was the exception that proved that rule. Built like a brick latrina, Marcus was an uncouth Philistine who had no time for the titting about and makeup of his master. He was a gladiator school dropout with a massive chip on his shoulder and took to bullying Lucius, who, in Marcus's eyes, was ingratiating himself with the master through his newfound interest in theatre and spending time with Eleni, who Marcus had always secretly held a torch for. Marcus was not happy, and he showed it by pushing Lucius around figuratively and literally and calling him word turd whilst hitting him whatever came to hand. One day, Lucius was busy cleaning the impressively sophisticated for their time toilets when he heard sobs. In the next room, he found his master Octavius, Rome's greatest playwright, on the floor, inky hands surrounded by scrolls. "What's happening, master? Are you dying?" "No, worse. Writer's block." Octavius laid it all out. Nero was apoplectic, mum stabbingly furious, playwright crucifyingly cross. But due to their friendship, he'd given Octavius one more chance. "I must write the greatest play Rome, nay the world, has ever seen. Succeed and Nero forgives all. Fail and Nero will bring down his wrath, not just on me, but on the whole household and every person involved in theatre in Rome." Octavius was, frankly, shitting himself. Before his master started crying on the floor again, Lucius picked up some scrolls from the floor. "Surely these aren't all bad, master. Why not read your favourite to me? Hearing out loud may help your process." So Octavius did just that. He read aloud from the scroll he had done the most work on. Gladiator Commodus comes out of his house. Maybe he has a helmet on? And he looked a bit cross. There was a long pause. Before Lucius realized that there was no more. That solitary half-formed sentence was all he'd written. Oh dear. He tried to be positive. Well, it's a start. Octavius burst into tears again. Lucius tried to be constructive. Why is the gladiator so cross? This stopped his masses crying in its tracks. I imagine someone's done something to slight him, he replied. Who and why? A love rival? Lucius handed his master a fresh scroll, stylus and ink. Write it down. Octavius did. They went on like this all day through the night until the following morning, slave and master knocking ideas back and forth, Octavius scratching them in ink, Lucius asking questions, offering suggestions. By midnight, they had the framework for possibly the greatest play ever written. I won't try to retell the story here. Suffice to say, it was a masterpiece. Imagine the 10 greatest films, books, plays and songs of all time mashed together. Now imagine, that wouldn't create an awful steaming pile of mess, but a beautiful blend of tragedy, comedy, music and spectacle. Now they just needed the perfect ending for the perfect play. Lucius went over where they'd got to. So we have the genius playwright, played by me, interrupted Octavius. Yes, master. And we have Emperor Biro, who is handsome, with a large penis. Yes, good. How would our playwright kneels before our emperor, who stands, sword drawn, and offers his neck, his life? Lucius, you're a genius. You've saved us all. He was and he had. It was the ultimate form of symbolic penance to the real Nero, and he loved that grovelling shit. Lucius was their saviour, and Octavius wanted to give him something in return. He would give Lucius the honour of appearing on stage at the end of the play to soak up the kudos. You can take a bow, receive the applause, the cheers, the love of the crowd. But there's no part for me. Oh, never mind that. We'll sort something out. You shall be on the stage. Lucius was over the moon. Him in a play. He accepted gratefully, touched by his master's generous gesture. Octavius also made it very clear that Lucius should speak to no one of the final scene. Theatre is a cutthroat business, Lucius. You let your ideas slip out over a few drinks, and before you know it, they've nicked your play and they're putting it on all over the empire. So keep stum. It was then Lucius admitted that despite being some sort of latent playwriting genius, he'd never actually seen a play or even been to a theatre in his life. You will take my seat at a theatre this very night, Octavius announced. The ancient Roman equivalent of being put on the guest list for a Beyonce gig with a backstage pass, and more importantly, a +1. Lucius got to take Eleni on a date. The play took Lucius's bloody breath away. The theatre itself was a feast for the eyes. So many people in one place, more than he'd seen in his life. He was enthralled with the performance, the acting, the delicious bite-sized snacks delivered to his seat. It was the best thing he had ever seen/tasted. He kept turning to Eleni as if to say, "Did you see that?" And on one occasion, he actually shouted it out loud. "Did you see that?" His enthusiasm was infectious, and Eleni was enjoying the show just as much as him, cheering and booing like two kids at a pantomime. But it was nothing compared to the final scene, which featured a gruesome and graphic on-stage death that blew his tiny mind. He turned to Eleni, asking breathlessly how the hell they pulled off such an amazing trick of stagecraft. I mean, that was brilliant. It looked really real. Eleni just laughed. Of course it looked really real. It was really real. He's dead, mate. What? They killed that actor? No, Lucius, don't you know anything? They don't kill the actor. He's one of the greatest actors in Rome. They switched him at the end, just for the death, stuck a matching wig and mask on him, and switched him for a slave. What? Eleni explained to Lucius that bloodthirsty Romans loved a bit of real death to spice up a play, and it was tradition for slaves to replace their masters in the death scenes. You can't kill off the actors because good ones are hard to find, but slaves grow on trees, are 10 denarii. Lucius blanched. He wanted to throw up. So anyway, how's your play coming along? He sat frozen and silent. He couldn't tell her anything. He had to keep stum. Theatre was a cutthroat business. He jumped up and stumbled for the exit, dazed, reeling, remembering the play's ending, his starring role. He had effectively, quite literally, written his own death warrant. Lucius was shell-shocked. He was going to literally die on stage. His master had called it an honor. An honor. He'd run, leave Rome forever. Yes! But if he didn't turn up on stage to sacrifice himself, the play would turn to chaos. Nero would go ballistic, and everyone else would die horribly instead. Then he saw her. Eleni, searching for him outside the theatre. If he left, she would die too. He couldn't do that. He couldn't leave. But he still didn't want to die. Surely there must be another way. Lucius had written the play that would save everyone, but not himself. He hadn't even been Octavius' slave for long. There were others around for ages, and they'd done nothing to help like him. Slaves like Marcus. Good old, thick, uncultured Marcus. Lucius found him picking his nose and scowling back at the house and managed to start talking before Marcus hit him with the nearest thing to hand, which on this occasion was a leg of mutton. Marcus, I come in peace. I want to clear up this bad blood between us. I've muscled in on your territory, stolen your master's favour. I've acted the Billy Big Bollocks. Well, yes, not the phrase I'd have used myself, but yes, I apologise. I even only went after Eleni because I knew you liked her. I'm truly sorry. Marcus was instantly suspicious. What are you really after, dickhead? Lucius insisted that he wanted only peace and made a big show of giving up his position as understudy to Octavius that night, the night of the biggest show in Rome's history, as an offer of truce. Marcus was confused. He knew nothing about the theatre. In fact, he actively hated it, something that Lucius was counting on. He certainly didn't know about the fate of slaves. It's like being a cool stunt double. You'll fill in during the final scene so Octavius can prepare for the curtain call. Sounds like hard work. No, all you have to do is put on a mask and wander onto stage at the last minute. Marcus was still dubious, rightly not trusting this sudden offer of kindness. So Lucius played his trump card. Just think what Eleni will think when she sees you up there on the stage, all big and hunky. You'll take the final bow, receive the applause, the cheers, the love of the crowd, the love of Eleni. Marcus took the bait. Okay, I'll do it. Now piss off and leave me to my mutton and nose picking. The night of the performance arrived, and everything in Lucius's plan to dodge a stabbing was in place. Octavius and Lucius wore matching armour and helmets, with masks ready to be put on for the suicidal switcheroo, which would be a double switch for Marcus instead. Nothing could go wrong. But that didn't stop a knot of worry and doubt twisting in his gut. Was he doing the right thing? Was his fate more important than Marcus's? Was he evil? This was the worst case of stage fright ever. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, with a great fanfare that made the edgy Lucius jump out of his skin, play began. Lucius was suddenly full of panic. He couldn't let this happen. He had to stop it. But at the moment, Octavius slapped him on the shoulder with a smile. Good luck, Lucius. Break a leg. He headed onto the stage. Break a leg? Break a leg? His master was sending him to his doom with a huge grin on his face. This stiffened Lucius's resolve. The plan would go on. To hell with Octavius, and to hell with the bully Marcus. Lucius watched from behind the curtain, nervously scanning the audience. It seemed as if all of Rome was there. Nero was in his seat, ready to give a thumbs up or thumbs down to the lives of everyone. Eleni was there too, beaming, completely unaware of the murderous backstage plotting. Marcus arrived. Great. Lucius went to hand over the mask, but Marcus just angrily shook his head. He followed Marcus's gaze and looked down. He saw a dagger in Marcus's huge fist. You lying little twat, he shouted, poetic as ever. Marcus had found out, but how? He explained that he wanted to press Eleni so much that he couldn't resist telling her about his star performance. She laughed in my face, told me I'm going to die. Lucius played the innocent. She what? No, she's crazy. Marcus was furious, humiliated. Are you seriously going to keep denying it? Would you believe me if I did? No. Then no. I was trained as a gladiator, Lucius. If you'd asked, it would have been an honour to die for the household. Some of us do have honour, you know. But seeing as you've been such a sneaky little turd, he gave Lucius a choice. You either go on stage and accept your death, or stay right here and get killed by me anyway, only much, much more painfully. What a choice. Lucius found himself in an impossible situation. With a heavy heart and a grim look of determination on his face, he decided he must go on. If he must die, then he would die saving Eleni. He masked up and stood silently next to Marcus, watching the play, waiting for his entrance. Before he knew he was going to die, the time had dragged. But now his fate was sealed. The scenes flew by, like his life was slipping away, too fast for him to keep up. It was like a dream where he was stuck, frozen, unable to stop his coming doom. Marcus, on the other hand, was more relaxed. He was positively bored. He never managed to watch more than a few minutes of a play without dozing off, and even now, dagger in hand, he started to nod. His eyes became heavy, and soon he was snoring away. Suddenly, Marcus was woken with a jolt by applause from the crowd. How long had he been asleep? Where the hell was Lucius? And he saw him. He was trying to get away. Marcus raised his blade and plunged it hard into Lucius's chest. He fell to the floor, dead. Marcus bent down and tentatively pulled off the mask. He revealed, to his devastation, not Lucius, but the face of his master, Octavius. Marcus had slept through nearly the whole play. Octavius had been on his way to get change for the curtain call when Marcus had mistaken him for Lucius. Lucius, who had heard the hubbub before heading to the stage, arrived and looked down at what Marcus had done. He went to speak, but Marcus raised his hand. No more words from you. I had one purpose in life, to serve and protect my master. I mucked that right up. Give me your mask. Lucius handed his mask to Marcus, and Marcus handed Lucius his dagger. I've got one chance to regain some honour. Die a noble death for my household. I'm going to die on stage. As he headed toward the stage, Lucius stood in his way, tears in his eyes. That's the most poetic thing I've ever heard. You truly are a gladiator. Marcus sneered in reply. Yeah, well, you're still a lying little twat. And with that, he marched out to certain death. Lucius watched from the wings. The moment of truth was upon them all. Masked, Marcus knelt before the actor playing Biro, who raised his sword and swung. Just as the sword fell, there came a bellowing "Stop!" from the audience. The blade froze millimetre from Marcus's neck. Everyone gasped and turned to see who'd shouted. It was Nero. The real Nero. The mad emperor stood to speak. This play has moved me to tears, to laughter, to flatulence. I was sick twice. This truly is the greatest play ever seen by any man. A huge round of applause. Lucius couldn't help but feeling proud at his play being praised so glowingly. Nero continued. Here's a funny story. When I woke this morning, I was to have all of you slowly and painfully killed. Nervous laughter from the crowd. They didn't find the story so funny. But because this play has moved me so, I've decided to spare you all. Even that masked slave. No one dies today, not even a slave. More honest laughter from the crowd. Was that even a joke? They're a sick bunch, the Romans. Masked man, remove your mask so we can see the face of the slave who stayed an emperor's hand. Marcus did so, to the crowd's rising cheers, the loudest coming from Eleni, who saw Marcus in a more heroic light, just as Lucius had predicted. Nero hushed the crowd. They shut up sharpish. From this day forth, the brave Marcus is no longer a slave. He is a free man. Nero threw a large sack of coins at the stage. A wealthy, free man. More cheering. Marcus beamed, clearly loving being on the stage he'd spent years avoiding. Lucius looked on agog from the wings, feeling more than a little jealous. Marcus had gone from condemned grump to the hero of Rome, and Eleni's pin-up, in a matter of seconds. It was Lucius who'd written the bloody play, so at least he had his life. It was all going to be okay. But Nero had one more thing to say. But what of the writer? Where is the author of this amazing spectacle? Where is the playwright? Reveal yourself. Silence. I said, reveal yourself. The crowd joined in, calling for the writer. Lucius couldn't help it. The cheers of the crowd were his. Pride swelled. They had to know that he, Lucius, had written this masterpiece. He yanked a rope. The curtain fell, revealing Lucius to the crowd. Lucius smiled and bowed, caught up in the moment, excited at being revealed as the true creator of the greatest play ever written. It took him a moment to realize the crowd were not even looking at him, but at the lifeless body of his master, Octavius, slumped at his feet, and at the bloody dagger in his hand. Gasps, shouts of "Murderer!" and "He's killed his master!" Nero once again calmed the crowd and spoke. "Okay, you know just a moment ago I said no one dies today? I've changed my mind." And so ends the sad tale of Lucius the slave. There is a quote from another famous Roman, Julius Caesar, that sums up his fate. "It's only hubris if I fail." But I prefer a snappier, more modern saying. That's show business.